Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show, and this is episode number 100 as we hurl towards Christmas, or a non-Christmas as it feels like at the moment. But we're 100 episodes in. Let's take your mind off stuff for an hour and a half. The show is available live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, Ace Podcast Nation. Also your home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please follow us on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can keep up to date with the latest shows, guests, and of course support us. And you can get the audio versions of every single show that we do at the usual podcast radio platforms. Just search Ace Podcast Nation and you'll see 340 plus shows, so lots and lots of content there for you. And of course, if you just want the football stuff on social media, follow at A.C.E Footy Show on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and LinkedIn, and that'll just keep it football. Just as we wait for the various platforms to fill up, big thank you to Black Diamond Sports. They've been a phenomenal help and support over the last year, and couldn't thank them enough. You could check out their social media pages. You could also check out their website, the links to which are all in the description and the closing credits. And today's sponsor of the Andy Campbell Football Show is Bespoke Financial. They are giving away a will worth £140 with any new policy which is taken out. So please check them out. Give them a call. Don't miss out on an incredible offer. And as we've said before, award-winning service, real top-notch stuff. And they've looked after Andy for years and years. So introducing, first of all, as ever, the co-host with the most, the fox in the box, still the king of the Millennium Stadium, and he is the favourite son of the second worst town in the UK. It is Mr. Andy Campbell, ex-Cardiff and Middlesbrough striker. How are you, mate?
I'm alright, mate, thank you. It might be number one now, it might have taken over. As I say, it hasn't got any better. I love the place, don't get me wrong.
When the riots start, there could be any number of towns could take over, mate. I'm afraid, but yeah. So it's
really
nice.
Excited.
Go on.
Really excited, Si. 100th show. It's been a slog. It's been really enjoyed them all. But this one's gonna finish the year. It couldn't be better timing wise. 100th show, amazing guest, Christmas sort of bit of time off, bit of time to reflect on a strange year, but time to just have a little bit of fun for a bit, and just talk about something that we really enjoy about talking and getting some answers by somebody who's been there, worn that T-shirt, which is fantastic, really, for me.
Yeah, spot on, mate, and that's what it's about. I put a message up on the weekend, obviously when they announced all the Tier 4 stuff, they created a new tier. Just saying, like, if people are feeling like they're struggling, come on over to the Facebook page and have a chat with all the people who watch all the shows. And it was a good little thread. Couple of guys who watch regularly straight in there, and like Reese has put a message up straight away saying to follow up on that Facebook post. If you're struggling, come and have a chat. We're building a nice community, mate, and I'll also be putting out a compilation of the 100 episodes at some point later this week, just to see the difference and how it's progressed.
So it's nice to be nice, isn't it? It's nice to be nice. We've always said, there's people struggling, and it's so important that people are there for other people. That I'm no advocate for anything, but my direct messages are always open. I'm always there for a chat if I need to be for anybody, and I've helped a few people, which is great. It's the least I can do. That people don't be intimidated and scared to talk to people, especially ex-footballers or current footballers. And for me, it was just normal people. And I say we've got one on the show who is a normal person, believe it or not. That we all get stereotyped to be this kind of thing and this kind of supposedly person, but we're not. Believe it or not.
Indeed, mate. I couldn't have said it better myself. And just before I do introduce our guest, we've had a couple of super chats on YouTube, so I have to make special mention of them. Gaz says, happy Xmas lads, and Rob Boyle also as well. So they're flying in. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's very much appreciated from both myself and Andy. I can't get off. But on with the show, as it were. And tonight's guest started his career at Manchester United before playing at Barnsley, Blackburn, Forest, Leicester City, to name a few. I am delighted to welcome Mr. John Curtis to the show. Welcome, John. How are you?
Cheers, Si. Andy. Yeah, great to be on. happy to talk some soccer, as they say.
Yeah, some soccer. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, John. Before we
worries.
start there, I'm so glad you didn't name all his club side because we haven't got
that long. We've been there all day, haven't we?
No, great to have you on. You know what I mean? It just shows. I say we're going to go into your career obviously in a short while, but you know what I mean. To play football at any level is an amazing feat. You know what I mean? To play and to be around in the kind of people that we're going to talk about soon, and playing the managers and the fans and the stadiums is. There's nothing better, John, was there, to be involved in that kind of environment?
No, I think we were pretty lucky as well, mate, because if you think about when we started playing, the game was very different to when we started to when we finished. You know, we started and it was just the kind of beginning of that uber professionalism that's now in place. We didn't have any of the social media problems that the lads have these days. Yeah. That wasn't around, and it was only towards the end of our careers that the social media started getting big and this uber professionalism when the lads, you know, couldn't enjoy themselves. I think we had it pretty good, mate. You know.
I think we have. We've said this, haven't we? You know what I mean? I think I'd call it very cushy for me because some of the things that I got away with, or we got away with, or everybody got away with at the time was because the social media wasn't there. You know what I mean? There was a big culture, and that culture was a socialising culture, whatever that may be. You know what I mean? There was some people who stepped over that line a little bit, but the drinking culture was massive. The enjoyment culture was probably even better, you know what I mean? Whereas every day was fun. It wasn't, you know what I mean? There was always something going on, where now it's, like you say, it's very professional. It's very serious. It's very cutthroat as well. I don't see a lot of footballers happy. I don't see a lot of footballers having a laugh and a joke. And, you know what I mean? Even in pictures and social media, you know what I mean? It does sometimes look a bit forced and fake and stuff. But, you know what I mean? I was so glad that, you know, I would never turn the clock back and wish something different or wish now, because you know what came with that was amazing memories, meeting amazing people, and you know what I mean, for me it was the best time ever.
Yeah, and agreed. Very, very, very lucky, mate, to have done it.
100%. I just want to make a very quick mention of this. Obviously, with the Tier 4 stuff, there's a lot of people on social media, particularly in like where I live in Cardiff and Wales, where there's people who have struggled or they've left a lot of their Christmas shop until next week because when they get paid. And Gavin Randall's just put up a message there. He said his wife and his daughters and him giving away lots of stuff to people that are struggling for their kids. So, you know, and there's a lot of people doing similar. So, you know, that's a fantastic thing to do. And I think that's the one good thing which has come from this year is there's been a lot of people going out of their way to help others and to kind of realising maybe that they don't need all the things that they've got. I've certainly realised I've got far too much stuff which I don't use, I don't need, and maybe there's a better home for it. But I just wanted to shout that out, mate.
And John will back me up here when I say this, because every Christmas, without a shadow of a doubt, we went to a local hospital with seeing all the children who never came out over Christmas. You know what I mean? The families, the kids, and whatever ages. You know what I mean? Seeing all the different wards and stuff, and it was so heartwarming. It was so, you know, I mean, I remember the first year when I went to Middlesbrough when I was a young lad. I didn't appreciate it at all in any given way. And it was only when I signed for Cardiff and my first daughter was born. When I say little, she's not so little now, but when she was born in 2004, I remember going to the hospital at Christmas, and it got me for the first ever time. And then I wasn't say I was grown up and mature, but I realised how I would think, and as being a parent now, and realised that my kids were in hospital over Christmas. And I've done it every year. I've done it since I've retired, and it was only this year as the first ever time I've not been able to do it with what's going on. And luckily enough, we've found a way to through Sophie's bookshop and my girlfriend's bookshop, we've managed to get some books into the local hospital for the kids to have
Amazing.
some fun with over Christmas. So it's not toys and stuff. So we've found a way, but it's still not the ideal way. But it's nice to do something because, as I said, John will back me up. It was so heartwarming. It was just it brought you back to ground. You know what I mean? If you were going anywhere and you thought any differently of yourself, it was very, very, very surreal.
Yeah, it was a regular, wasn't it? That's what we did. But you know what's great as well, guys? I just think the things that, look at Marcus Rashford, look what he's doing, and he's not alone. You know, there's a lot of lads who, when I'm talking about lads, a lot of players who you know, going the extra mile and doing some magnificent things at this time. And I think it's not just, this transcends sport, really, doesn't it? It's there's a lot of people all over the world, you know, doing some great things, and we need to hear about it more, and we need to do more. You know, one thing that I do with my boys is I try to instill that. They've had a privileged life. They're like many kids. They don't want for anything. So for them to give away some of their old toys and things like that, it's no great burden on them. It's the least we can do, and hopefully instill a little bit of charitable giving for them going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a sign. We spoke about this, haven't we, in Marcus Rashford? I watched the interview with Marcus and his mum. It was on social media. I don't know if it was on BBC or whatever, the longer one, but it was just a snippet of and it was absolutely heartbreaking about what mum was talking about, not being able to feed herself and making sure the boys had everything, making sure that Marcus moved away into digs when he was 11, 12 year old, just to give him a chance to be a professional footballer. And it's sacrifices which nobody ever sees and nobody ever listens to until something like this comes apart. You know what I mean? If COVID had never come around, potentially we'd never hear this story, and that story should be told. That story should be shouted out from the rooftops, because what that lady's gone through and that family's gone through, you know what I mean? Because, you know what I mean, Marcus not living with his mum it's a huge deal, and to come out the other end, you know what I mean, and to be as successful as he is as a person, as a footballer, is just phenomenal. Really, it's amazing.
Oh yeah. 100%, mate. And as you said when I introduced you, mate, it's nice to be nice. And I've seen so much. You see, particularly on Twitter, you see so much negativity and hatred and horrible stuff. Like, I try to focus on the positives, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess. But let's put John on the spot a little bit. Let's get into the what we like is what we do, John. To start, we have the quickfire questions. Magnificent 7. You just answer 7 quickfire questions and give your first answers.
If there's any dodgy ones, John, it's Si's fault.
Oh yeah, as always, mate. And if you want to give an example, then that's always welcome as well. Okay. We love a good anecdote. Right. John Curtis, the Magnificent 7. Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
John,
that's the easiest question you're going to get.
Favourite TV show?
Favourite TV show? Does anyone watch TV anymore? I'm watching Netflix all the time.
Yeah, I don't watch TV.
I would have said.
Oh, it'd be interesting to see though, John. Are you back watching all the English stuff, or are you now Americanized?
Well, American Netflix different. So you have
so much better.
Shows on.
I watch the American Netflix. It's so much better.
Is it? I didn't know.
Well, it's the usual stuff in it, like Breaking Bad. I used to like 24 back in the day.
Yeah,
Kiefer Sutherland. I used to like that. I fancy myself as a bit of a James Bond.
We haven't had that, have we? We haven't had that one. I like that one.
I don't know if someone. I think that might be the first time someone's repeated. I'm sure someone else said 24, but I don't know. I might be wrong. Centre back or full back?
Centre back.
Angriest teammate?
Danny Cullick.
Good job.
You must have played against him.
I did, yeah. I did. Yeah, extremely angry. Yeah. Nice off the pitch though. Different. It can be a little bit different. Obviously, different in training and stuff. But I mean, during games,
he was very different in training. I was at Forest with him, so Dan's a good lad. He's a lot mellower off the pitch.
Best manager you've played under?
Oh, Sir Alex, obviously.
Scored a goal or a clean sheet?
Scored a goal. Yeah,
I like that from a defender. That's amazing. We had Michael Morrison on. Was it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, wasn't it? And we got really lucky actually, because when we booked him on, he was very hard to get hold of. But he scored on the Saturday, and we obviously had him on the Monday, and he didn't stop talking about his goal. To be fair, he scored against Forest, he scored the winning goal, and it was just amazing. And we asked him the same question, and I think his reply was, if he'd have asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have said clean sheet, but I've just scored. I want to do it again and again and again, because it's a different buzz, John, right? It must be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
Well, we didn't score very often, did we?
Yeah, well, never did I, to be fair. You make your... But it's that, you know what I mean? Nobody celebrates... fans don't really celebrate a clean sheet, where a goal is just the noise, just the euphoria is just so different.
Yeah, they'd rather watch a 3-2 or a 4-3 than than a 1-0, wouldn't they? You know, it's obvious.
Yeah, fans would.
They want to be entertained.
Sir Alex wouldn't, by the way. But
well, I don't know. Listen, he was always, after
he was all about the attacking.
All about attacking. Fortune favours the brave.
Yeah, totally agree.
And then finally, I say finally, but it's Christmas, so I'm going to make it the Magnificent 8. So before we get to the last one, I want to ask you, Manchester United, Leicester City, or Blackburn Rovers?
Manchester United.
Yeah, easy. I could have guessed that one.
Easy.
Yeah. But I have a huge affinity for the clubs that I've played for. United, obviously, because I came through the ranks there. So that was why I was kind of indoctrinated into Manchester United as a kid. You're kind of more vulnerable to that brainwashing that Sir Alex did to everybody at that time. But I had magnificent time at Blackburn and at Forest. I actually loved my time at both proper football clubs. Both really. Blackburn's a real friendly, quality club. They do everything with class and style, and Forest is just, you don't realise, Forest are a big club. So loved my time at all three, but definitely Manchester United for me.
It's mad though, John, isn't it? Because you just spoke about obviously three clubs. One who's, two of them have won the Champions League or European Cup. Premier League, Division 1, whatever, whichever way you want to look at it. It's, massive clubs with histories which go back generations, and followings and stuff. And it's such a shame, isn't it, when you see the likes of the latter two,
Forest,
or even United in a certain way, but Nottingham Forest down the bottom of the Championship, Blackburn just tilting on in a position where they can't really get any better. But they just need to, something just needs to happen, doesn't it? To make them great again. And I don't know what it'll be, because they've both got very good owners. They're both, very good footballers, but I just don't know what it is. Just going to make them.
It's so competitive. What the Championship's like. It's so competitive. When you look at the Premier League this season, it's ridiculously competitive as well. Which is what we want. That's what you want. You don't want City or Liverpool running away with it. You want it to be 2 or 3 points in it all the way to go to the wire.
Well, we do a championship show on a Friday. We started the show as a championship only show. It was only COVID, which we went down the live guests with no games, and listen, we go through Blackburn with a fine-tooth comb, because Bradley Dack's my hero. I just absolutely adore the fella. He's just for me, he's the championship in a nutshell. Lewis Holtby, we go through all these teams and all these players. It's a Premier League 2 for me. It's that close to being better than any other division outside the top division. It's a cut above the rest, and for me it needs to move away from the EFL. In my opinion, because I don't think we can. You can get in it. Don't get me wrong. There's an opportunity to get promoted in it, but for me, there's so many big clubs, and there's teams who've been in the Premier League in the last 5 years. There's teams who've won Premier Leagues, European Cups. There's so much history in it. I think it deserves to get a little bit bigger of a title for me.
Branded better. Branded as Premier League too.
Yeah.
But just before we do move on, the final question of the Magnificent Seven, the final Magnificent Seven before Christmas, and it is, as ever, who is the greatest Englishman who's ever lived? Doesn't have to be football related.
It's a great question.
The greatest Englishman that's ever lived.
It's a great question.
I'm gonna have to go to Sir Winston Churchill.
I like that one.
He's come up a few times, hasn't he?
Yeah, I like
some
that
phenomenal questions and comments
Welshman?
already.
So, who's the greatest Welshman?
An Iron Bevan.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Obviously, I don't count myself in there.
All of us.
It'd be unfair if I was to put myself within it, so I automatically take myself out, obviously.
And rightly so. Rightly so.
Yeah, you can't have it all, can we? Some great comments and questions already. Cade says he's loving the football shirts in the background on both your walls.
Yeah, so am I.
And Rob Boyle says he had John down as a Magnum PI fan, but he's not sure why. And then Gaz followed that up with, and they're on two different platforms, so they're not sort of gone on to each other. He says, John, have you got any interest in TV or acting, because you're looking a bit Hollywood?
Yeah, I've seen that. It's a good one. It's a good one. We had a conversation, John, didn't we, just before we started about
the new Vinnie Jones.
Yeah, John looks better now. He's got more hair. He looks. John's a new man since he packed in football. You know what I mean? It's amazing. It's that football's bad for you, I tell you.
It is. It's all that those late nights and travelling all over the place and drinking too much and things like that.
Yeah,
that we did.
Yeah, definitely that.
Late
nights. Yeah.
Clean living now.
Yeah, the sunshine.
It depends how you look at it. Is it? It's either late nights or early mornings. It's just a sleep thing. Just never got round to.
Indeed, sleep. What's sleep?
Yeah.
What is sleep? So, as you know, we start with any other business where we have a little chat about some stories. But just on the back of Magnificent Seven, where we give you an either-or question, Mr. Stuart Campbell has sent in a question, which is Andy's dad, and he says, John,
Stalker.
Manchester United to win the Premier League or win the Champions League, which would be preferable?
Hell of a question. Well, they can't win the Champions League, but
no.
Depends if Liverpool win the league or not.
See,
if Liverpool won the league, then they'd equal United, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So, and we wouldn't want that. So
no, we certainly would not.
If Spurs won the league, then I'd say the Champions League. But if Liverpool were top of the league, I'd say United to win the Premier League.
It's interesting, isn't it, though, because I think years ago, like when United were in their pomp, they would have always chosen the Champions League because it was always felt like maybe they didn't win as much in Europe as probably they should have. But I think now, because they've had so much time without winning a league, I think most fans would probably take the league now. So it's interesting how things change over the years.
They're the big competitions, aren't they? They're the ones that everyone wants to win.
Only two.
They're the two tournaments.
Yeah, I think also I think supporters would probably see it as a bigger achievement than winning the Premier League. You know, because of the previous seasons they've had. You know what I mean? To go where they were to where they would be if they won it this year, it would be I think it'd be a bigger achievement because they've had some struggles the last couple of seasons with players, managers, to change a manager, transition. And so, you know what I mean? I think, and I don't say this disrespectful, but anybody could potentially win the Champions League if you had a good season, or you know what I mean. There's been a few
just
shocks
need a good run,
getting there.
it?
Whereas the Premier League, regardless which managers or people you talk to, the league table doesn't lie. You know what I mean? So the league table tells the truth, and the league table means at the minute Liverpool are the best side, but I think there's still a lot to come from. There's still a lot to come from. Leicester City got a great result yesterday. Obviously, United got an amazing result. Spurs will be there, I think, in and around, but you've still got Everton's and things who are picking results up.
Flying.
You know, it's going to be the closest it's been from a lot of teams. I think this year it won't be. No one will run away. And then we forget about Man City.
Yeah,
Man City still got games in hand, I think.
That takes us nicely into the first bit of any other business, which is my selection, which is defending. We've talked about it a lot in the Championship. We talked about it to Graham. I've forgotten his surname.
Graham Jones.
Graham Jones, Bournemouth's assistant manager. We've talked about it obviously with Danny Gabdon. We talked about it with Michael Morrison and some of the other guests who've experienced defenders. Like, I feel like defending has become a lost art. And I saw a stat yesterday which just astounded me. And I knew that Man United had conceded a lot of goals from corners recently, like something like their last 8 goals or something ridiculous. But there was this stat that something like in the last 3 months, 85% of the goals they've conceded have come from set plays or corners. And if you take those out, whereas in they defended those corners properly, they would have been top of the league by some way. And I find that astounding. But it's not just them. Leeds were absolutely defensively. I haven't seen a more naive performance in a very long time at the very top level. Because, look, I love the way Leeds play football. I'm a massive fan of Bielsa. I'm a massive fan of Glick. But when you're 3-0 down in 20 minutes and you're still playing in a way that's leaving you 4 versus 3 at the back in favour of the attacking team, you've got to change it up, and they didn't. And that game yesterday could have been 15-6 or something because neither team could defend. But it's not them. It's not just those two teams. It's teams all over the Premier League, all over the Championship. Defending is a lost art, and I won't have anyone tell me otherwise. But I will throw it to the two professionals, and a striker and a defender, and tell me if I'm right. I am, and also why I'm right. No, but like I'm interested in your opinion. Obviously, John, specifically, I speak to Andy every week, so I kind of know that he kind of agrees with me to a certain degree. Like as a defender, do you think that it's gone downhill since you played? And why?
That's tough to say because I think the game now is significantly better than it was. I can remember. I'll give you an example of that. So Neil Dusnik was the England under-18s head coach, and I went back and shadowed Neil with a under-18 squad. And at that time, it had people like Damari Gray in it and Harry Winks and people like that who were in that under-18 squad. And I was watching them train. And I was thinking to myself, the level of these lads is so superior to when me and Andy were playing, England under-18s, England under-21s and things like that. These guys, technically, just the way they struck the ball, just the way they manipulated, they were way better, light years ahead of what we are. And that's what you'd expect. You'd expect as the years go by, the game gets faster, it gets better. So you kind of understand that. So to say that defending has gone downhill, I would say no. I think defending has definitely improved, but I don't think it's improved at the rate that the attacking side of the game has improved. And I don't think the way the game is officiated now helps defenders.
Yeah.
That every single rule change that comes in, and rightly so, is to make the game more attacking, more entertaining, more easy to score goals, and more difficult to defend. So I think that is starting to show. But do I think teams need to concentrate more on defending and conceding goals like you alluded to with United on corners in particular is something that shouldn't happen. I think if you are organised, if you're disciplined, then there's no reason that stats like that should exist. Particularly when you've got a team of midgets, then you're going to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But Harry Maguire and Lindelof, and even Pogba when he's playing, these are big. All of those lads, McTominay, they're all big lads.
Yeah.
They all should be able to go and attack the ball and head it. But it's maybe that desire to do that isn't there like it was in previous years.
Andy, here's a question for you then. I'll kind of move it into with something which Craig's just put there. He's put set piece defending, now doing zonal, nobody on the post, which is just a recipe for disaster. As a striker, would you have, if you're lining up for a corner, would you be happier if the opposing team's like zonal marking as opposed to man marking? Because to me, it feels like no one's taking responsibility.
Oh, listen, there's nothing worse as an attacking player to have somebody touch tight to you, grabbing hold of you, stopping your run. You know what I mean? You're not getting a run on the ball. You know what I mean? So it's even if you do get a contact on the ball, you're not going to get the power and the accuracy as you are if you're getting a running jump to it. I think it's a difficult one for me because I think man-to-man marking as well also gives you responsibility. You know whose fault it is if something goes wrong, and I don't mean to blame them. I mean to then work on a different area because how do you know you're not good at something unless you test it out? One thing I will say about set pieces have got better as well. And I'll use Ward-Prowse as an example. Oh. You know what I mean? So Southampton are excellent at set pieces. They scored a couple against United 2 or 3 weeks ago on a Sunday just by his delivery alone. You know what I mean? Is the way he puts the ball in, Beckham-esque. You know what I mean? Where I'll go back to the day. John obviously played with some great players who did set pieces, Ryan Giggs and Beckham, for just to name two. That there wasn't enough of them now. Now every team has one. You know what I mean? Set pieces, crosses from wide, Jack Grealish. Every single team has someone who can put a ball in so dangerously into good areas.
Consistently, you know what I mean? As well, Andy.
Yeah, all the time. You know what I mean?
Ward-Prowse is almost perfect.
Ward-Prowse, his stats on his set pieces are phenomenal. You know what I mean? He puts them into an area, the assists. You know what I mean? And that's not the ones that he hasn't got as well. You know what I mean? The ones what someone's missed, the ones what have hit the post, crossbar, goalkeeper saved, someone's played off the line. It's phenomenal. You know what I mean? So attacking players have got better, quicker, faster, stronger. Teams play for set pieces because they know that there's weakness there. They know that they've got strengths there. You know what I mean? And I'll use Cardiff City side. We spoke about it. Cardiff City beat Sheffield Wednesday last Wednesday night because of one reason, because set pieces was a danger, the threat. So they played for long throws, set pieces, corners, free kicks, because it works. It'll work for them because they knew the more repetitively they put the ball in the box into a dangerous area. Sean Morrison, Nelson, Bamba coming up, you know what I mean, from when he came on later on in the game, it was going to cause problems. And what happened? He scores a winning goal in the 89th minute because it's repetitive. Because you can't always concentrate for 90 minutes. It's impossible. And one slight switch off by a defender, the attacker comes in and wins the game, and the defender looks stupid. And as an attacking player, it's easy for me to say defenders aren't concentrating, but it's so hard. You know what I mean? A centre forward can switch off all game. He can switch on for 1 second and score the winning goal.
How many games, Andy, did when you were, because you'd have been brought back probably for, although you might not, because you'd been left up top on your own maybe, but how many teams that you played for did all over man for man on? I cannot remember a team or a manager or a coach saying to us man for man mark all over the place. It was always either zonal or a hybrid of zonal and man for man.
It works, doesn't it? Because you've got the men on the post don't mark. You know what I mean? Because and I don't like this not having a men on the post. Because they're there for a reason. It's whose fault is it if he doesn't go in? Because the goalkeeper's looking around thinking, well, where's my posts aren't covered? And then you've got the person who'll defend the front space. You know what I mean? Their job is to stop any low flight ball. You know what I mean? So no one can get a run on them. No one can get a front across them. If someone gets across you, it's your fault. That's your responsibility, is to not let anyone. Be aware of what's around you. And any low ball, the first ball there, if you can flick on and get it high, or you can get it out, you've done your job. You know what I mean? For me, you also need an outlet as well, because if you put the ball out, you know what I mean, someone's got to be there to try and win the ball back for you. If that's someone from the edge of the box putting pressure on a quick ball back in, or somebody who's up there anyway trying to fight for the ball, because if you've got nobody up there, and John is a defender, you know what I mean, he's going to go straight back to the defender or a goalkeeper whose first job to do is come put it straight back in. And so you're defending two set pieces within a short space of time straight away, which is more dangerous, or double the danger than it should be for me. And watching United the other day bringing 11 players back in the 18-yard box, I think it's difficult because, you know what I mean, you've got players like Rashford, you know what I mean, you've got players like Martial when he plays, you've got players like Daniel James when he plays. Pointless exercise, because those kind of players, you know what I mean, are in my mould. And
Pogba, you can name a few more.
Just in the way, you know?
I'm just naming. Well, yeah, because you know what I mean. Because other players are looking at them thinking, right, they're doing a defensive job, but they're not. They're just coming back for the sake of coming back. If you left them leave three up, staying up, everyone would wet themselves thinking, like, we better keep 5 back here. We've got 3 lunatics who are going to
unless you Leeds.
You know, well, yeah,
Leeds would have left 2 back.
Nobody. Yeah, but it's. I just think sometimes it's a game of cat and mouse. It's a game of, you know, mix it up a little bit during the game. First corner, bring everybody back. Second corner, it's just trying to second guess each other, because, you know, listen, I've never ever come across a set piece coach in all my entire career, all my entire life, and people now are hired to be set piece coaches defensively and offensively, and I think that's amazing. You know what I mean? But it's only amazing if they come and make something different and be something different. If you're letting 10 goals in off set pieces and you haven't scored any, well, what's your job?
There's a problem.
What you're doing, it's not really working.
I think it's more to do. You look at that United team; it's more a general problem about United than it is about conceding goals. I think it highlights a bigger problem to them, and it's the reason why, like you said, Si, that if they didn't concede those goals, they'd be top of the league. But if they didn't show that mentality that Pogba for me personifies, Martial shows it now and again, that would never have been accepted when I was there, never have been accepted at all, you know. And I don't just mean by Roy Keane and people, like, it just wouldn't have been accepted by anybody in that dressing room that I was in, to be selfish or not putting the team first, you know. And that for me is a bigger problem about United, and the fact that they're doing so well despite that kind of problem, I think says a lot about the job that Ole's doing, to be honest.
Well,
lack of
Can I ask
leadership,
you
isn't
about
it?
Ollie?
It's lack of leadership. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
every team needs a leader. You know, you watch Sky Sports, you listen to Roy Keane, goes a little bit over the top sometimes against United because he knows what he would instill. You know what I mean? Gary Neville talks about it passionately, but probably doesn't go as far as Roy does. Jamie Carragher goes on about it. Other players, Graham Souness, Micah Richards. Every team that all those guys, they were either leaders themselves and they led by example and everybody followed suit, or they had somebody else to look up to be led by and to be pushed by. Because, listen, you can't go through a day, a week, a season, a match without needing someone else to push you through it as well. You know what I mean? So if that's having a bad first touch, a bad first pass, missing a chance, giving a goal away, you know what I mean? Doing something stupid during the game, you need someone else to pull you through it. You know what I mean? That's the other leaders on the pitch. You can't. You know what I mean? Some people aren't made and aren't built like that. You know what I mean? And looking at the United team, it's probably evident that they've got probably less on the pitch.
Yeah, it's symptomatic of football. I think, and the coaches that can get these lads together. I think there's more individualism, Andy, than when we played.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Like you said, we'd go out for a beer. We'd be closer together as a group of individuals, and I don't see that as much anymore. And I think totally the coaches that can get their arms around a group of players and get them pulling in the same direction and unify them, they're the coaches that are going to have the success. And I think, you know, the old adage 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing. This is a team game at the end of the day. It's not necessarily about individuals. You need one or two individuals at the top end who can unlock the door, absolutely, or to show individualism at times. But ultimately, it's a team game. If you've got the best team out there, you're going to win. And I think that's going to be the key in modern football going forwards, to manage the egos and bring everybody together in one direction.
Yeah, no,
that's why I quite. Sorry, mate. I was going to say that's why I quite fancied Spurs when we did our prediction. Someone asked us for predictions a couple of weeks back, and I said I quite fancy Spurs because if you look at them, they look very together. And other than Dele Alli, looks like he's being kind of isolated. But as such is Mourinho's way, you kind of it's his way or no way. Yeah. But I wanted to very quickly, John, ask you about Ole Gunnar Solskj. He gets a lot of stick. It feels like he's constantly one loss away from being sacked, or certainly being speculated that he's going to be sacked. And we've got quite a big Cardiff contingent who watched the show live and kind of comment. He's not popular in Cardiff because he didn't do a particularly good, he didn't do a very good job. And also the stuff which happened before he came in as well. But anyway, but tactically, a couple of times, he has made some really interesting choices which have come off. There was a couple of games last year where he switched to a completely different formation, whether it was like a 5-3-2 or a diamond, and it worked. Hasn't always worked, but it did. Saturday, he brought in Daniel James against Leeds, specifically to play against Leeds. Only his fourth start of the year, the season, and I thought he was very, very good, and his pace was largely what opened up other avenues for people like McTominay and Fernandes.
Sir Alex would do that, so that's a direct kind of copycat approach that he's taken from Sir Alex. Obviously, the vast majority of his kind of learning as a coach came under Sir Alex. So Sir Alex would definitely play players either against their hometown clubs, or he would play them against their ex-teams in this case, because he would expect a reaction from the player. That he would know that player then is going to give it even more, and that can make that little difference. So that's a direct copycat of Sir Alex, copying what he does. Tactically, that's obviously not, because for all the time that I was at United, I can't ever remember not playing 4-4-2 and being pretty rigid in that system. And it was about the players more than anything else than the systems. So that was really interesting, really, to see how he's done that. But I think what you've got to look at United and Ole in particular is it's not just Ole. he's got a backroom staff there. Mike Phelan is probably the most experienced assistant manager in the Premier League. So he's got a lot of knowledge on his doorstep there. He's got obviously Michael Carrick who can help, and the other guys there. So I don't think any of these, particularly on the tactical changes, will be taken in isolation. But a lot of thought gone into that based on the opposition, based on personnel available to him, and the bit of psychology as well. A bit like the Daniel James change, that not playing Pogba at the weekend obviously worked really well.
Indeed.
I think though, Si, on that point as well, it gets people guessing, doesn't it? And changing people causes more of a problem than it does for other teams, because Leeds will have worked all week on this formation, these tactics to stop these players, and when these players aren't playing at 2 o'clock, for example, if it's a 3 o'clock kickoff, how do you then change the way that you're going to play? Because if you've got midfielders there to stop Pogba, Pogba's stop him doing this, stop Rashford, stop Cavani, stop them doing this, then all of a sudden those 3 players aren't playing. You're a little bit like, well, so what, Gaffer, what's my job? Because I'm here to mark him, or I'm here to nullify this kind of approach. And I think that's so good, managerisms, to try and change around and change tactics during a game, before a game, which will nullify threats, and give you a little bit of an advantage, if that's psychological or mental or physical, then I think it shows that he thinks outside the box a little bit and gives himself a chance to be different and gives himself a chance to be successful. Because listen, there's been times this season where he's probably been hanging on the edge a little bit and giving himself zero chance, and probably in certain games he's changed when he shouldn't have changed, and sometimes he hasn't changed when he should have changed. But now you only learn that by making mistakes as a player, as a manager, and he's still a good manager regardless of the mistakes he's made at previous clubs. You've got to judge him on his performance as what he's doing now. And I said earlier on, league table doesn't lie, And
They've
I can't
snuck
believe
up there, mate.
Exactly. And for a team who's not doing very well, if he's not doing very well, how bad are Arsenal doing?
Yeah,
you've got to look at you've got to look at realistic. Because there's certain clubs in that division who are poor and doing poor.
From a United standpoint as well, I think Fernandes has got the whole club out, not just Ole here, just got everybody out of jail on numerous occasions. With he's
lifted them, haven't he?
Talk about a signing having an impact on a club. He's had a massive impact. So, what would Fernandes done with Mourinho or Van Gaal or previous managers, and gone into that changing room and made that big a difference? You just don't know. So we can sing all his praises as well, but ultimately he'll know he's at Manchester United and 3rd place in the league isn't good enough, and the performance over the 2 years since he's been there isn't good enough. And he's acutely aware of that.
Well, John, you know the impact that certain players have had at United over the years, and the other clubs you've played for, by the way. Just focus on that. But imagine a player like that fitting in the mould of the players that you played with, the times that Sir Alex was there. That we're on about teams who were unbeatable, who were unplayable. And then you're throwing a player into the mix, and these are the kind of players that we want to see. These are the kind of players that we all pay money to watch. These are the kind of players that we need fans back in the stadium to be excited to see, because that stadium full of fans getting the buzz when he gets the ball and creates chances, scores goals. He's going to be something special for years to come. That fella.
Yeah, I think Pogba was the talisman, wasn't it? Pogba was the big hitter, and Fernandes has just come in and taken over that mantle now. And for me, you probably tell the way I'm talking, I'm not the biggest fan of Paul Pogba. Unbelievable player, but I'm just not sure his mentality is right. But
Paul Pogba's a 6 out of 10 every week, and then every 4 or 5 weeks he'll be a 9 out of 10, whereas Fernandes is a 7 or 8 out of 10 every week, and then every now and again he'll throw in a 10 out of 10. Yeah. And ultimately that's what the top players do, isn't it?
That's consistency. And for me, it's key, isn't it? You can't, like I said, you can't play well every week. But and players at the level that Pogba's playing, you can't play badly every week. You can't afford to, or you're not a good player. You're not classed in that caliber.
You talk about you asked me in the Magnificent Seven side about Ronaldo or Messi, and the reason I said Ronaldo is because not that he's a better player, but you can just see the work rate, the effort, the discipline, the focus that has gone into making him what he is. And that's what I admire. I think if Paul Pogba could show a 1/10 of the kind of professionalism and focus and discipline of someone like a Cristiano Ronaldo, then he would be a phenomenal player for me. I just don't see that concentration and focus and commitment that Fernandes seems to show, and other players, in the past have shown. People like James Milner and Gary Neville and people like this who were like uber professional. If Pogba could have a little bit of that, it would make a massive difference. And hopefully he matures and he starts developing a little bit of that. We'll see.
But we've said, haven't we? We've said, and what I don't want to do for him more than anything is look back at his career and think, could I achieve more? I'm not on about winning the World Cup. I'm not on about winning leagues in Italy, in the Premier League, and winning European titles and stuff. I'm on about yourself and being classed as a real great and world-class player, and being in that bracket, what you just said, being a Messi, Ronaldo, Ibrahimovic, you know what I mean, and a potentially a Haaland and an Mbappe, you know what I mean? Those kind of players are in their own bracket. And for me, Pogba is only mentioned to be in a level that they're at is because he's won the World Cup. You know what I mean? Individually, he's not in the same league, but because he's won one of these titles, because he's in the same group because he's French and he's been successful and he's been at Inter Milan and he's come back and he's had a big transfer fee. These are the things what have made him into the player he is instead of his feet doing the talking. You know what I mean? The social media was made more famous than he was as a player. And you know what I mean? For me, the best thing he did in his career was get rid of his Instagram, because now he can focus on his football a little bit. And at the minute, it's taking him time to baby steps to get him back into where he needs to be, because I thought he was getting back to where he needed to be. And then for me, Fernandes came in and took his smoke and took everything what he needed to be. And then all of a sudden he's playing catch up a little bit, because he knows now the level that he needs to get to be classed as the best player of United. You know what I mean? He's not at the minute. How can you be world class when you're not the best player of your team? It's impossible.
I will say, I think it is possible, because you could have more than one world class player, can't you? But I will say with Pogba, the last 4 or 5 games that he's played, he's actually been a lot better. He's looked. I think it was the Sheffield United game. He looked angry, and but he was quality, because he looked frustrated, and he looked like he actually cared, which is something which gets aimed at him a lot, that he doesn't really, care one way or the other. But to me, the only reason he's picked up his game now is because he can talk to other clubs in January, and it's like this never-ending thing. And like, if it was me, if I'm Ole Gunnar Solskj or Ed Woodward, whoever, I'd cut my losses on him now. I just think he's not going to sign a new contract anyway. Get rid, and you're out of the Champions League anyway. They play better without him, so it's just I would sell him. I got to be honest. Andy, what's your any other business for today?
I just want to have a little bit of a rant about a game I watched last week, and obviously a few teams have been affected by it. Obviously, COVID's still around; it's still affecting everybody in the world, which is obviously a shame. And obviously, we all want it to go away. But obviously, Newcastle played Fulham the other day, and they were absolutely affected hugely by lacking players, not being able to cancel the game, and then. Obviously, Ipswich cancelled the game. The manager got COVID. I think 6 or 7 players got it as well. Sunderland have had the similar result where so many players have got it. They were able to cancel it. And I just think we've all got to be singing off the same sheet, because for me, it doesn't matter if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. It's that one person's been involved in the whole environment. That one person could have affected loads of people. It takes up to 14 days to come out. So people have other family members who might have underlying health issues. I just think we're missing the big picture for me. Listen, you know what I mean? We're on about life here. We're not on about football. Football is irrelevant. If you've got to cancel the odd game, do it. You know what I mean? Listen, change the rules a little bit. You know what I mean? If you've got to wait 7 days to make sure no one else has got it and test them every day, then so be it. Clubs can afford it, especially in the Premier League. It's about health, less risks. More worry and more focus on people's lives inside and outside of football, because yes, we all miss football, we all want it back on, but I'd rather miss my team for a week or two and be playing catch up towards the end of the season than something that's happening like Sunderland and Ipswich now, where they're going to miss games over Christmas. Everybody loves Christmas time. John might be the same as me. I love Christmas. Love playing against Christmas. The grounds are always full. games came thick and fast. Didn't have to train, which was great. You know what I mean? Could play every other day, and there was always a buzz about it because fans always came to the game. You know what I mean? Quite merry, quite happy, and obviously now things are different. But we want to see more games, and when you're not going to watch your team over Christmas, it can be probably even worse for those people who are struggling mentally as well. You know, so it's such a shame at the minute.
I think they need to be fair with the teams, and like you say, it's got to be. It can't be one rule for one and one rule for somebody else. It has to be, you know, if they're cancelling games and postponing games, because of players and staff getting COVID, then there should be some consistency with that, or there has to be some consistency with that, because it's just unfair then for Newcastle to be punished and forced to play when they're missing so many players.
I totally agree. Because listen, obviously the guidelines are different with football. You know what I mean? Yes, the 2 metre distance, the 15-minute rule, but people still get changed in changing rooms regardless of things. You know what I mean? You're indirectly touching the same stuff. You know what I mean? Sitting in the same seats. You're in the same vicinity. It's difficult to say you haven't had direct contact with somebody when you might have. So for me, it's a grey area. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't fill me full of confidence. And I'm so glad that I'm not in that kind of area at the minute. And I don't have to make those kind of decisions, because we had quite a brutal conversation at the start, didn't we, about players who decided not to play because of COVID. I know Troy Deeney decided he wasn't going to play because he had family members, and a lot of people slated him. We give him the benefit of the doubt, you know what I mean? Because we were talking about people who weren't playing because of moves, which is a completely different thing. But you know what? I'm all for a player to say, listen, I'm not comfortable with what I'm seeing. I'm not comfortable with what I witness on a daily, monthly basis. You know what I mean? That how we've got to get changed and stuff or whatever. Yeah. I'm not going to play this week or next week or for a couple of weeks because family comes first.
Yeah, a few managers have said, haven't they? There was someone, I think it was one of the Bristol teams, criticised the facilities, that like the change-in facilities, and they said that they didn't feel that it kind of was up there with the COVID regulations. But yeah, it's a strange one. What I don't see, for me, I think if you've got teams, like there was a team in Germany who had to put 3 goalkeepers on the bench. They only had 14 players. 3 of the subs were goalkeepers. They had to bring one of those on as a striker. And I think you said Middlesbrough had 2 keepers on the bench. To me, that's ridiculous, that is.
Yeah, Middlesbrough the weekend against Birmingham had two sub goalkeepers on the bench, which is just... Listen, I know there's more subs at the minute, so you can afford to do, but what's the chances of it happening? I just don't like... that was just...
This infuriated me.
Well, I put it on social media, and I didn't want to give him... I thought about not putting it on, because I didn't want to give him the airtime. And then I thought, do you know what? Your dad's super famous. Your dad was an unbelievable footballer. And you've let everybody down. You've let yourself down, your dad down, your country down, your teammates down. You've let the whole of football down and the world down for doing what you've done. Because
I couldn't believe it, man.
Forget COVID. Forget COVID here, by the way, because it's happened to me once in my football career, and somebody spat in my face during a game, and nobody saw it. And I got sent off for it because I wasn't. There was one thing. That's one thing I just cannot stand. It's just absolutely vile. It's absolutely disgusting, and I just wouldn't let it go. And it was just, it wasn't right for me. And it's just, it's.
But no, it's mind-boggling.
Thinking about it,
that any footballer would do that anyway. But in this current climate, and bear in mind, like when you think of all the bubbles that those footballers are in, and the rigmarole they have to go through every game and training session with the different COVID regulations, it's not like it could slip your mind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's people on, the cameramen and the staff, referees have got masks on, like the fourth officials and stuff. Like it's there, it's in your face constantly. So to do something like that, I think he should be banned for at least 10 games, I got to say.
But then I look at the lad, the opposition, John. So, like, does he have to self-isolate for 2 weeks because he's
just been spat in his face?
Yeah, well, you're just opening a can of worms, aren't you?
Yeah, it's like you said, Andy. It's disgusting at the best of times. You just don't want,
No.
It's just a disgusting thing to do without COVID. With COVID, like you say, so I think that in itself is way worse than any kind of red card. You're putting people's health at risk. It's every bit as bad as a knee-eye 2-footed tackle. So whatever the and it's standpoint of just being disgusting, it warrants worse. And to try and stop that kind of behaviour, I think the authorities need to make a stand. Enough is enough. They can make a real draw a line in the sand here with this, and hopefully eradicate it.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Would you ban him rest of the season or 10 games?
Listen, I'm all for giving people a chance and wanting people to play football. He is out of order. I think 10 games would be ample, and I think would prove a point.
That would definitely draw a line in the sand and make a marker.
Prove a point, because then if somebody else did it again, you know what I mean. There's your minimum. What you get. You know what I mean. And it can be given more, and it can be extended again and again and again for me. But 10's
there's a lot.
Yeah, but it depends.
But you got to set a marker out, mate. You've got to set a marker out. I think for me, you've got to show that it's not acceptable. Okay, John, we're going to move on to you now. But just before we do, before we kind of get into mine and Andy's question, there is like a build-up of questions in the chat, so I'm going to fire some of these at you.
Okay. Yeah.
James Costley said, "Did you ever play at Ninian Park? If so, what was it like as an opposition player?"
I didn't. Or did I? I think no, I did. I did. Yes. Hostile.
That's a word for it.
Right?
Yeah. I
that was just a warm up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was. I think I only played there once, and I can remember almost crossing the border into Wales, and you're thinking you as an Englishman, you automatically feel a little bit scared, But then you're going into the lion's den, so to speak, and the fans had a way of definitely raising the hostility level on you 100%. It felt sometimes it felt foreign. I know. When you hear the Welsh language being spoken and strong accents that you have down there, I think that can
it's intimidating, John. Intimidating, wasn't it?
Yes.
I remember Rio. Was it Rio Ferdinand after they played in the cup? It was a week before I signed, and Rio said that it was worse. That was worse atmosphere, intimidation than it was in Galatasaray, and you know what I mean. And when you hear things like that, you take it with a pinch of salt, don't you? But obviously playing there, I saw it firsthand, you know what I mean, and I saw it home and away, and how hostile the English fans made it and the Welsh fans made it, and I just thought it just made a great advocate for me for professional football, and it was such an advantage for a home player, you know what I mean. I listen, you know what I mean. I've played in some unbelievable atmospheres, some unbelievable stadiums, but that atmosphere at Ninian Park, forget that 12th man, it was more probably a 14th man. It would just give you that much of a boost, that much of a helping hand, because it probably had a bigger effect on the opposition than it did on yourself, you know what I mean? Whereas they were more scared, intimidated, and it didn't raise their game as much as a good atmosphere would.
Yeah. It is. That's. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot get into the games as much now without the fans there.
Yeah, well,
I'm struggling to watch the games, and I think the players are as well. Imagine playing in it's like pre-season. It's behind closed doors. It's like a reserve team match every game you're playing in, Andy. And
I said the same thing. Yeah,
you was thinking of the derby. Yeah, you think of the derby the other day.
Yeah,
and it's just like there's no bite or there's no edge, and people underestimate the effect that the fans can have. And that was certainly the case down there, like you described.
Yeah, we said the same thing, didn't we? You know what I mean? Pontins League, I described it as, you know what I mean, that they were a means to an end. As a young player, you used to love them because you play against some experienced players. But as an experienced player, you're playing there thinking, not this again, you know what I mean? Because it's zero atmosphere. You're there to be shot down at. There's a no-win situation. And I'd really struggle to play in front of a stadium with 3 points at stake, and for the manner in what you need to, the level of performance you need, it must be so difficult for players for this to. I wouldn't enjoy it. I don't think I'd enjoy it. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Okay, John. Donna Perry says, "Do you keep in touch with David Beckham, and do you like Ryan Giggs?"
Well, short answer is no and yes. But the United. We talk about we were talking about United earlier, and I think you mentioned something, Andy, about the professionalism and the cutthroatness. That's how United was when I was there. It was only when I left to go on loan to Barnsley that I realised, that it was like that, because having been brought up in that environment, you never realised it. So to answer the question, I think Ryan Giggs is an absolute brilliant guy, an absolute legend of a guy. Considering the man is a global superstar, or was at the time, obviously still a big hitter today with his managing. He is down to earth, a lad's lad, a joker, great sense of humour, humble, and you wouldn't think he is one of the most successful football players of all time. You would never think that to meet the guy, because he doesn't come across that way.
And the decorations he's got as a player, winning trophies,
unbelievable.
The stats of scoring a goal in the Premier League and every single season. You can go on. You know what I mean? The amount of appearances he's made, it's such an achievement. You know what I mean? And when he does eventually decide to pack in football or whatever he's doing, you know what I mean, managing, you know what I mean, and coaching, and just take a step back and think, wow, you know what I mean? That was just such an achievement, because for what he achieved as a young player, you see him come through, and then the players that he got to play with, and the trophies he won, and then coming through with the rest of the class of '92, and
and then he's qualified for Wales with the international tournament as well, which is only Chris Coleman's done that since the '50s. So I think that
and you never know where that's going to end as well, Sad, do you? Because
semi-finals last time, mate.
Well, exactly. That it's his fans back in. You know what I mean? How passionate the Welsh fans can be, and when they're getting back like they did in the last tournament, you know what I mean, they've got an opportunity, like everyone else has. It's going to be exhilarating. It's going to be fantastic, and and the players at his disposal, by the way, as well, are a lot stronger, and some of them remind me a little bit of the way that he plays. Daniel James for one.
Yes.
You know what I mean. So if he can instill his kind of tactics and just give them the confidence that he was instilled as a player, and like John had when he was a player by their kind of managers, then they're on to a winner straight away.
Yeah, a lot of those Welsh boys, Ryan Giggs is the hero. Gareth Bale, Daniel James, they've all grown up. Ryan Giggs is their absolute idol. A Welsh international who's won everything. So they're going to go through brick walls for him.
It's funny you talk about Welsh international, and Mark Hughes jumps to mind here. Who I played with at Blackburn. It's funny you're talking about playing in empty stadiums, and Sparky was the world's worst trainer. The guy couldn't train, So I wonder whether he'd be able to play in an empty stadium, because it would be like a practice match to him.
Yeah,
in a game, absolutely phenomenal, as we all know that the history's there to everyone to see. But in training, he had this invisible player out on the left wing who he'd pass it to all the time and just kick the ball out of play. But come in, control on his chest, volley it with his right foot, and it was his left foot. And with nobody there.
But the thing is, John, you said earlier, you know what I mean, that you're driven, aren't you, by supporters? You know what I mean, like that. I couldn't imagine scoring a goal, and I couldn't imagine scoring a goal with VAR anyway, because that's another story. But scoring a goal and then not being able to celebrate with supporters must just be the most surreal thing ever, because for somebody that's going to be your last goal. You scored your last goal in front of no fans. You haven't been able to celebrate with anybody. And you know what I mean? It's so frustrating. It must be so surreal, because you know what I mean. And we've gone from having no fans to having some fans, then to having no fans again, and we're going full circle again now. And it's you know what I mean. It's getting very strange, very strange.
Kay Childs asked, at your time at United, how good was Karol Poborsky? Very underrated, I think.
Great shout.
Yeah. Well, remember, was it Euro 96?
Euro 96.
Euro 96. He had an unbelievable tournament, didn't he, in Euro 96? Very quick, very direct. Not as technically gifted as a lot of players, but because he was fast and direct, I suppose he was, and I was going to say a poor man's Andre Kanchelskis.
I was going to ask you about Andre Kanchelskis, one of my favourite players.
I didn't play with him, but he was very direct and fast, and Poborsky was very similar in that way as well.
Remember the goal he scored? I remember the goal he scored at the Euros when he scooped it over against Portugal. I think it's Portugal.
Yeah.
It was I think it was at Old Trafford.
Old
Trafford,
Trafford,
so so just it's probably the best place to do it, knowing that you're going to sign for United. I guess,
that was
perfect
a great
timing.
Czech Republic team as
Yeah,
well.
it was.
It was very good.
I think Patrick Berger was in that as well, and I'm lucky enough to play with Pat down at Pompey.
Yeah,
great play.
And which one was better, Poborsky's scoop over the keeper or Angel Di Maria's goal where he scooped it over the Leicester keeper?
Or for United, is that when they got beat? Is that when they got beat off 6-2 or something?
I think it was something ridiculous, wasn't it? But that goal was unbelievable.
Goals,
special, yeah.
Oh, it's having the nerve to do it on a big stage like that, isn't it? The Angel Di Maria one was in the league
build
game,
up to that,
which is
so
fantastic.
good
You know what I mean? The goal was an amazing goal, but I can't look past Poborsky doing that in a Euro tournament, which. You know what I mean? I think it might have even been like one of the knockout games, which put you through the next round. It's just it's unbelievable to, you know what I mean? The audacity to do it. You know what I mean? Instead of putting your foot through it and smashing it in the top corner or trying to put something to have the vision to do it and then the execution to do it is just something else. It's like the Panenka penalty. You know what I mean? I seen somebody do it at the weekend.
Balls of steel.
Have the audacity to do it in a big stage with the crowd. I wouldn't do it. I can't take penalties at the best of times, but I certainly wouldn't try that.
No. Well.
Donna Perry says, who do you think's better, John, Ole or Arteta as a manager?
Yeah, I can answer that one.
Yeah. Well, I look and I think look at the background they've both got. Okay, Arteta's had a fantastic kind of scholarship under Pep, hasn't he? You know, and worked with some great managers as well as during his career. But I think Ole has had as good a scholarship as anybody has had, and I think he's doing better right now. That's not to say that Mikel Arteta can't be a fantastic manager. Whether or not he's going to be at Arsenal, whether he's going to get the chance to do it, how long he's got left, we don't know. But one thing's for certain, he'll learn a lot of lessons from this. His first stint as a number one. Ole's obviously got a little bit more experience. He's done it obviously in Norway and at Cardiff and failed, you know. And I think you learn the most lessons when you fail. So whether or not Arteta will get another chance to go into a big club, but Ole was lucky that he learned some lessons, failed, and had an opportunity to put it right. Will Mikel Arteta get the same fortune?
I think that's bang on side, isn't it? That's absolutely bang on, because you know what I mean. You're told by your parents, make mistakes, don't make the same mistake again. You know what I mean? So, Ole's learned the hard way, hasn't he? You know what I mean? He's done well. He's done well at Molde, done great. Got his opportunity at Cardiff. Didn't go the way that everybody wanted it, including himself. You know what I mean? Listen, nobody wanted him to fail. He didn't go in that job wanting to fail. He just didn't. It just didn't happen for him at the time. And whoever believed that a manager who got sacked at Cardiff City would end up being manager of Man United, it's just beyond belief, isn't it? But look at Mourinho. Mourinho's failed in certain jobs. He's massively failed in certain jobs. But look at, he's still one of the, if not the best manager in the world on his CV because of what he's achieved. And that's because he's learned very quickly by the mistakes he makes, and makes sure he doesn't make the same mistakes and also has a philosophy which he sticks by religiously. And I think that's important as well. You know what I mean? It's Mourinho's way. He sticks by the same kind of people. You know what I mean? Because you can't work with the same players from 25 years because players evolve, better players come and go. You know what I mean? Players get older, players get injured. You know what I mean? You've got to be diversified with players with other ideas, and he does that, and he learns by his mistakes. And I think it's so key what John said. Arteta. I don't believe Arsenal will probably be, for me, in my opinion, be the right job for him, but he could go to Spain and he could win the league within the season because he's got that much class about him. But listen, after this season, a decision might be made. He might not. He might win the league next year in the Premier League. But I think
I could see him at Atletico Madrid.
Somebody like him doesn't need to pack in football and no. after one bad.
It's amazing.
He's that good. He's just.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
They win the cup last year. They come into this season on a high. They do all right, and then all of a sudden, you know, you lose a few on the bounce, and you get us three talking about,
it's madness, isn't it? I don't think it helps as well, does it? You know that Arsenal are probably the high-profile side with probably the most famous fans in the world. You know what I mean? With the Piers Morgans and other famous fans who are quite vocal on social media, and every time they lose a game, it's just relentless. You know what I mean? It's relentless, and I find it quite funny that every time Arsenal lose now, I don't go on Arsenal's Twitter. I go and find Piers Morgan because I can learn more from Arsenal's performance and result by reading his tweets than I can from watching the Arsenal game. It's absolutely fantastic. It's great. It's great.
Here you go, and what about this for a message? The Andy Campbell Show is, worldwide listeners, by the way, mate. We know that anyway, but little message there. Gloria, I'm not going to embarrass myself and try and pronounce the full name, but Gloria says, Merry Christmas to all. Happy New Year. God bless.
Merry Christmas,
from
Gloria.
the Philippines.
Yeah, I like
there you go.
Merry Christmas.
Worldwide.
Christmas.
Worldwide. There was a really good question. Where's it gone? I just wanted to, and then we'll leave the questions for a minute and we'll come back to them at the end. Rob Boyle, he said, am I right in saying that John played for Wrexham briefly under Dean Saunders? If so, what was he like? What was it like there, and what was he like?
Yeah, listen, it was a year. It was about, what would it have been? About 2007, something like that. 2008, I think it was. And I'd spent the whole year after I left QPR virtually injured. And I actually went to play. My mate, I was doing rehab at Notts County, out of contract. A friend of mine was the manager in Notts County. He let me do my rehab there. And they didn't have a reserve team. So another mate of mine, Richard Dryden, was a manager of Worcester City at the time. And I was just getting myself fit and I needed a couple of games. So I actually signed for Worcester City in the Conference North or somewhere like that to play a couple of games. And Dino saw it in the like non-league, in the conference paper or whatever there is, and he gave me a call and said, "John, what are you doing playing for Worcester City?" So I told him the story, and he said, "Well, come and do it for me then instead." So I went up and played the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 games or something for Wrexham up there with Dino, and I knew Dean Saunders from Blackburn. He was, you talk about set piece coaches and things like that, but back in the day they were talking about strikers coaches. So Graham Souness brought Dean in as a striker coach to work with Matt Jansen and Coley and the lads, and I don't know if you've had him on the show or whether you know him, but Dino's a great character, great guy.
He's on the list of one. I really would like to get him on.
And he'll tell you some stories. He's a character, but really good guy.
It's a big club, John, Wrexham, isn't it? I think they're sleeping
Ryan
giants.
Reynolds.
I know they've been taken over now by obviously a superstar. You know what I mean? Who'll obviously want them great overnight, which is another story if it's ever going to happen. But yeah, a big club, big sleeping giant.
They should be in the league. Yeah, they're definitely a league club, and they're going to get big fans if they were in the league. But yeah, he was great at Wrexham. Frustrated. Again, the conference is a bit like the championship. It's very competitive. At that time, I think there was only one team that got promoted. It was just really, really tough. And like you said, Andy, Wrexham were the big fish in the small pond. Yeah. So you went everywhere, and everybody wanted to try and beat Wrexham. Everyone came to the ground and wanted to beat Wrexham because it was a football league ground that they were playing at. So everyone raised their game. So I think we did all right. We didn't get promoted, but we were in the upper echelons. Dino was frustrated. He wanted to push on. You could see he was frustrated, and he was used to working at a higher level and stuff. Top. It must be difficult for a top international player like Dean Saunders to work at that level, as well. Frustrating.
Yeah. It's having the standards, isn't it? Having the standards that he's trying to instill, and then trying to attract the kind of players that he's worked with throughout his career, and have his own standards, and then the budget, and then the facilities, and you can go on, can't you? You know what I mean? Because it's but then everyone's got to get the grounding, haven't they, at a certain level for him to progress onto the level that obviously he ended up going to or doing anyway. So it's a difficult one.
I tell you what, and I don't know what the lowest level you've ever played at, Andy, but it's a damn sight easier playing in the Premier League than it is playing in the Championship, or than it is playing in the Conference or League Two.
I played at every level. I even so I was 41 now. So last season I dropped down to my mates. So it was basically it was what am I on? Probably step step 8, step 9, and it was listen, the pressure on me, and I was playing fullback because I was like I wanted to play, but I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself. I didn't really want to run around. I found myself playing fullback, and I was getting up and down like a wing back. I was horrifically tired. It was. I'd be getting to like 80 minutes, and I was looking over the managers, one of my best mates, thinking like, just
take me
bring us
off,
quick. Just bring us off. But yeah, what you doing? Leave me on for? Like, you've got a 16-year-old kid on the bench. Bring him on. He wants the game. He's like, just give us another 5 minutes. And I'm thinking like, ref, how long? He said like 2 minutes left. I'm thinking, well, just get us off. What are you doing? What are you playing for? You know what I mean? But like, you're putting yourself under pressure. You're putting your body under strain. It's like, you know, I mean, my recovery, by the way, you know what I mean? I don't know about recovery as a young player, which you probably take for granted, don't you? But you know, when you get older and you try to recover, I'm on about Saturday. I'd be recovering probably Thursday morning, Thursday night, and then he would expect me to train again for a Saturday game. I'd wake up on a Saturday morning, stiff from training, thinking, oh, "This is horrific," you know what I mean? And then I'd be saying like, "Oh, just put me on the bench," and he'd be like, "Yeah, we'll have a chat." And then he'd name the team, put me in again. I'm thinking, this is so. I'm going through the whole week again, the whole cycle of starting over again. By the time the season was finished, I'd retired all over again because it was just horrific, mate. I was just, yeah.
But it's not the physical side. I just found it's the players you're playing with. You know, anybody could have played for Man United when I played for Man United. You know, you're just surrounding yourself with some of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
And when you go down the level, then there becomes more onus on you.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like you say, there's more pressure, there's more responsibility. You get players that are hiding, you know, who don't want the ball all the time.
Yeah.
They're not as good as players who you're used to playing with.
Yeah.
That becomes a problem.
Well, that's what people said to me, John, because people said to me, why, like during a game or other managers were having a pint after, why aren't you playing up front? You know what I mean? And without being disrespectful to people, it's in terms of, well, if I'm making my runs, I'm not going to get the ball because I'm making my runs, and you're not going to get the ball that I want at the time that I wanted. So I'm either offside or I'm wasting energy. So I thought, well, do you know what? I can get on the ball. I can be neat and tidy. I don't give the ball away. I can feed wingers. I can put the balls where I would have wanted it for them to run onto. So I found it as a win-win, and it worked. So you know what I mean, but then you don't want to obviously come out and say that because it's like, I don't want to be disrespectful to your teammates, to your manager, to your friends, or to other people, because you know what I mean. I just do it just to try and keep fit because I was too lazy to go to the gym at the time. You know what I mean? So it was just trying to get on the grass and just trying to keep fit and healthy. So it was a nice substitute, really.
So we'll come back to the questions from the chat just to finish off in a few minutes, because I know Andy's got a couple of things he wants to pick John's brains about.
Yeah, John, John, I would like to start right at the beginning. You know what I mean? So obviously, before United for me. So influences in your career. How did it all start? You know that I was very lucky that I had an older brother who played professionally. We got pushed by dad and mum, and it was amazing. You know, but where did it all start for you? And who was the biggest influence on your football career?
Well, it's always your parents, and I think for me, my dad was a big influence. Dad played a bit as a youngster before he did his knee in. My granddad played a bit as well. So, you know, we're big sporty family anyway. And you know, my sister played hockey for England and things. So, you know, all of my family's big into the sport. So I was always brought up in that kind of environment, always playing football with my granddad and my dad and stuff in the back garden, or down the park or whatever. So, and I just found that I was good at football. It wasn't because I played rugby, I played cricket, like most of us do when we're at school, and I was pretty good. You know, I opened the bowling for the Warwickshire U13s and stuff like that, and I played rugby to a good level at school. So it was just that I was better at football than I was at those other ones, and it was really when I started playing for the district, as it was back then. You're sitting a little bit younger than me, mate, and that's when all the scouts started coming to watch.
Yeah.
So as soon as you started playing for the Ninian and Bedworth district, and we'd go and play against Wolverhampton or Coventry or somebody else, and you'd have scouts watching, and you'd get them tapping up your dad and things like that. And for me, it was Stoke City had a centre of excellence, as it was in those days, in Nuneaton. So, and that's where I'm from. So it was perfect for me. So I used to go into this basketball gym and with one of them tennis ball style footballs, you know, the big furry things, and just play indoor at in their centre of excellence. And that was kind of my first exposure to kind of professional youth development, as it was. And that would have been probably when I was about, I'd probably been about 13. You know, I'd have been relatively old in comparison to maybe 12 or 13. And then from there, I went to Villa's Centre of Excellence. And I was an early developer. And so as a kid, Andy, as you know, I was very, very good as a kid, very early. So I was playing for England schoolboys and stuff a year young and things like that. So I peaked early, which is good in many ways, but it also has a big disadvantage. If you think back, Andy, to the lads, the early developers that you know, I think it's fair to say that the late developers are always the ones who have gone on to, you know, you think of kind of our under 18s and under 21s and stuff like that. It was people like Frank Lampard and Jamie Carragher, who's a famous late developer, and even Rio Ferdinand. They came to the table a little bit late. They kind of missed out on all the under 15s, under 16 stuff, and start coming in at under 18s. Even Steven Gerrard.
Even Stevie G,
yeah. Stevie G was saying they start coming in at 18s and then 21s. That, you know, they're flying at 21s. Whereas by the time I was in England under 21s, I was plateauing. Yeah. And you think of the other guys who played with us, who were similar to that early development. I think Ricky Schumacher as well.
Ricky.
You know, who was a fantastic player and had a really good career, but was you know, obviously nothing in comparison to your Lampards and your Ferdinands and stuff like that. So that was kind of how I progressed through the ranks. And I was lucky because I was so good when I was young. It was funny. We used to go around virtually every school holiday. We'd be at Arsenal or Chelsea or Leeds or even Rangers I went to, and United and Liverpool and Everton and, you know, all the top clubs. I'd basically spend, for that time when I was about between 14 and 15, those 2 years probably, I literally went every school holiday to a different club to go and have a look round, you know, just to see. And there was no pressure from my parents on who to sign for. You know, and at that time there was a few clubs throwing money at us, clubs like Leeds and Blackburn. Leeds offered us, I think they offered us 100,000 signing on fee at 17, Andy. £1,000 a week at 17, 4-year contract, which in those days was a lot of money. You know, but anyway, I went to watch. United invited us up. The first time they won the league, they played Blackburn at Old Trafford in like the swan song game. I think they'd already won the league. It was the game that the trophy was presented.
Yeah, Pally's got a
free kick. That's it. That's the one. Yeah. The atmosphere at Old Trafford that day was kind of like, wow, there's nothing like this. And I always said, if you're going to play football, this is the place to play football. You want to be here playing football. So I made the decision there to sign for Man United. So signed for United on 90 quid a week, you know, and digs, and you know, that was it. You know, it wasn't about the money, and my mum and dad were not pushy in any way. They didn't want to push me towards one club. They wanted it to be my decision, and you know, for me, it was the best decision I could make to go to Manchester United and experience what I experienced there. I couldn't have experienced that anywhere else. You know,
it's interesting, you're saying that, because we had John O'Greenan on, and John obviously had an opportunity to sign for Spurs or United, and he got offered a better deal at Spurs. Obviously, no pressure. He went to United, he went to Carrington, he met Sir Alex, and he just said exactly the same words. Where why on earth would I go somewhere else when this is a platform for me to play football? You know, you only get one opportunity, don't you, in football? And when you turn down an opportunity like that, you know what I mean, the regrets would have been massive, would have been ridiculous, you know what I mean? Because the grass isn't always greener, you know what I mean? I remember, I'm going back, the I got asked this question on by somebody else about best player I came across as a young lad, and it was I don't know if you ever came across him, a lad at Sheffield Wednesday called Mark Platts.
Of course,
he was a winger,
left winger.
Yeah, he was
played in my
unbelievable.
England under-15s
He was
team.
the best player I came across. He got offered silly money to stay at Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
Could have signed for United. Could have signed for somebody else. Signed for Sheffield Wednesday. Easy because he's a Sheffield boy. And
yeah.
Biggest regret for me. You know what I mean? You've got it. You can't have regrets in football. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's driving taxis now. You know what I mean? I'd love to have him on here. Just to pick his brains about football and stuff. But great lad, great player. You know what I mean?
But there's loads like that.
Gigs-esque when he was gigs-esque. You know what I mean? About lads. You said it there about having lads coming through the England setup. You know what I mean? Late developers were key. You know what I mean? Yeah. Unless you could hang on to your place. You know what I mean? You'd always get an opportunity. You'd always get the door would be open, but it was someone else was always. It was the room was busy. I'd probably explain it as, you know what I mean, that under 12s, under 15s, 16s that you were first name on the sheet. 17s or 18s, a bit busy. 21s, the room was full of players. You know what I mean? And you were fighting for a squad place, never mind a place on the plane or a place in the team. It was a tough place to play your trade because the quality, John, at the time. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that just because you're on here. You know what I mean? The quality of the players, the squads available to the manager. You know what I mean? Or the managers was unbelievable. You know what I mean? I know we've been quite successful over the last couple of years with winning the Under-18 World Cup and Toulon tournaments and Under-21s tournaments and stuff, but we massively underachieved, you know what I mean, as a group. You know what I mean? I spoke to Emil on this show about it, and he said about the full squad underachieving, but the Under-21s especially. You know, I know we were unlucky with having to lose players to the full squad, or they missed. You know what I mean? Michael Owens, Emil Heskey, Stevie G, Frank Lampard. You know what I mean? There's loads of players who didn't go to major tournaments because they went with a full squad, but even still, we still had enough quality to turn up on the big occasions, which we just didn't do, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, true, very true.
Sorry, I was just choking there.
Yeah, I thought you were there. I thought you were.
Coughing away.
I thought you were.
Smoke was cough.
Obviously, you played for a number of clubs. I know people laughing at a joke. When I laugh, I laugh because I played for probably about 25 more than you. But it was. Which was the happiest time? Because sometimes it's not about being happy. Sometimes you just find the right fit for you, don't you? You know what I mean? That I found home at Cardiff City because even though it wasn't my home and couldn't have been any further away from where I lived, I finally felt like a proper first team player because I wasn't the youngest in the keep ball squares. I'm the youngest in the middle. It was. I just felt like I was getting believed to be and proposed to be a proper footballer instead of being a young player.
Andy, sorry, mate. I pulled my earphones out there.
It's all right. It's all right. I'll start that one again.
It again. It goes.
That's all right. No, don't worry. Don't worry. For a second. Happiest time as a player. You know what I mean? Like back in the day when I played, I started at Middlesbrough. It wasn't. I loved my time at Middlesbrough, but I finally found myself to be a proper professional footballer and an experienced player at Cardiff because I'm not a young boy anymore. I wasn't kept as a young player. So where was the happiest time that you found as a player?
Blackburn and Forest, I think, were the best times that I had. I loved my time at both clubs. Like you say, I was then towards the end of my time at Blackburn. I was involved at Blackburn. You know, that was the beauty. Yeah. I'd gone from being kind of like a bit part player at United to being on loan at Barnsley and being involved and then doing the same at Blackburn. I was integral part of the team, which was something that I hadn't experienced before, or at a senior level anyway. So that was really enjoyable. Played some of my best football at Blackburn, and then went on a bit of a journey at Leicester. Leicester were getting relegated, so jumped ship and went to Pompey. Didn't play much there. Bobbed around on loan, and then time at Forest again. Like I said earlier, what a fantastic club. Yeah. 2-time European Cup winner, massive club, huge fan base. Proper history and class, and a club like United in many respects that has a philosophy and a style. You're playing for Forest, you have to play the right way. They were used to Brian Clough and
Cool.
So that was similarities in many respects between Forest and United. Obviously, not the same level and a much smaller club, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed my time. Great teammates. I look back to, and I think that, Andy, makes the difference, doesn't it? The lads who you're playing with.
Well, the thing is, it makes or breaks you. You know what I mean? Because it can be, you enjoy the football, but then you enjoy the life because you socialise together, and it just makes life just become easy. You know what I mean? You run through the brick wall for each other. We spoke about United earlier on and not having that camaraderie. You know what I mean? Not being able to do those bonding together, but life was good on off the pitch, and it just became. People say about not being able to have friends at football. I disagree. You know what I mean? If you're that close and you bond together and you more or less live in each other's pockets, it's not a job. It's just you're enjoying trying to win a football game for your mates and then socialise with them after. It's just the best thing in the world. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, that is. It was. I was. It's funny, really, because when I think back, there aren't that many of the lads that I've played with who are staying in contact, with us as much as I would. There's probably only a handful of lads that I really stay in contact with. But looking back, when I was at Forest, for example, I was talking there about Jack Lester, who now works at United
top player
in the level, and good player, and Neil Harris, Chopper from famous at Millwall, obviously. We were tight, we were thick as thieves basically when we were at Forest, and we had some great times, great stories, going out, drinking, all kinds of things, different podcasts, but we had some great times, and Blackburn was like that as well. There's some great lads at Blackburn. Pre-season tours and going away to Dubai and things like that with the lads, Keith Gillespie and Gary Flitcroft and Craig Ignat and
Higgy's a top lad,
Matt Jansen and stuff. So lads that you know as well. Good lads.
Yeah. Obviously, I could talk all day, mate, about various things. I would like to focus on now what you're doing now. That highly qualified coaching. Would you consider getting back into getting into football management? But bear in mind, by the way, all these comments to me, by the way, are all my ex-students, by the way. So whoever's doing this, by the way, they're all jumping on board. Great, yeah. It's Christmas. They must all be on the drink or something. You know what I mean? Which is great. Would you consider getting into management, or are you content? Obviously, you can tell everybody what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because I'd love people to follow and look at your website. Because I've been on. I've not stalked you, by the way, John. I've just been quite curious about where you are and what you're doing. But I said, tell everybody what you're doing, and would you like to use that experience, what you're gaining now, into professional football management? If that's in America, in the USL, in the MLS, or over in Australia, because I know you've been there in the A-League.
Yeah. So I don't know. I had a little spell earlier this year before COVID started. There's a USL club which is like second level in America, and Radhi Jadi from who played at Bolton for many years and then was down at Southampton doing the under-23s. He got the job, and Radhi brought me in as his assistant. So I went into the USL level and worked with him for a bit. Just to scratch an itch more than anything, Andy, to be honest. And I think I scratched that itch, certainly at the USL level over in America anyway, because it's the resources, the infrastructure, the kind of the knowledge gap at that level is so huge. It's unbelievable. So I don't think I would get involved. And I, to be honest, I look at lads now who, we've got plenty of mates of ours, teammates of ours who are, playing the trade as managers down in the, in the lower league or, even in the upper leagues, to be honest. And I just think it's very, very competitive. It's very tough. Do I want to do that to myself? Chance of getting sacked is so high, no stability. If you want to be a manager, it's such
such an insecure kind of position.
Yeah, dog as well, isn't it? You know, people talk about it, don't they? Talk about there's only enough jobs for one person. You know what I mean? Being a player, you can have 25 players in his team, so there's enough players and gaps for everybody. Managers, there's not enough gaps for the amount of coaches and the people doing the badges who want to be a manager or a coach. It's just so cutthroat. It's scary.
Yeah. It definitely takes a special character. I don't know, mate. The way that I'm doing it. So I run an organisation over in America called the National Centre of Excellence Program, and it's about giving American kids, working with kids from a young age up to kind of college age over here, and trying to give them the opportunities that we had. I was lucky enough, like we described, to work with people like Eric Harrison and Sir Alex and Brian Kidd and people like that coming through at United. People who know football inside out, know professional youth development, know what it takes to be a player. Over in the States, there just isn't that. There just is no knowledge and understanding of the standards that you mentioned, of the character traits that you need to show to become a player. People think it's just about kicking the ball. It's not. It's here more than anywhere else that you need to have the standards, the discipline, the determination, the resilience. Constantly getting back up when you kick down. I don't think people understand it over here. So that's what I do now, and I try and give back a little bit. And it's a really rewarding job. And I'm thinking to myself, why would I do that to try and be a successful manager, where the odds are you're going to get fired in whatever it is, 6 months or 8 or whatever I don't know what the lifespan of a championship League One manager is these days. 12 months at best.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. And you should be proud. You also should be proud of what you're doing as well. I think it's a great thing, and seeing some of the coaches that you've got working for you. The experience. I always look at it from a personal point of view. You know what I mean? Imagine having my son, my daughter being coached by you, international footballer, Premier League footballer, the other coaches that you've got. You know what I mean? You've got some big names on there as well, by the way, who are working alongside you. You know what I mean? So it's for me, it must be give them an even better opportunity to become better people, better footballers. You know what I mean? Like you say, it's not just about kicking the ball around. It's about becoming the whole package, and for them to be given an opportunity within football at whatever level they decide to move, if that's college football, which I know is massive in America, or USL, or better, or anywhere, or coming overseas. It's they're in good hands.
Yeah, well, you're right. That's what I try and do. I try and get lads. So I've got Tyrone Mears over here at the minute. Gary Taylor Fletcher's coming over. I've done work with Brad Friedel. So I'm trying to get people involved with what I do who know what it's like. Warts and all, Andy, because you need to know not just there's more downsides to professional football than there is up, believe it or not.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And you need to be able to navigate those downsides to experience the upsides. So. That's what I try and do, and getting people who know it, good people, good pros. That's key for me.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Side, do you want to finish off with a couple of final questions?
So what I'll do is I'm gonna just pick a couple of two random ones from the questions. There's a couple which are kind of the same. So we'll go with I think first of all we'll go with Stuart Campbell. He says, did Roy Keane scare his own teammates as much as he did the opposition?
No. Good. Again, I was talking about Giggsy being salt of the earth and down to earth. Keano was exactly the same. I can think about all the lads driving up to the training ground in their Ferraris and everything like that. Keano would just taking his dogs for a walk, coming in a sweatshirt, and he'd coming in a nice car. Don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't be not flash in any way, shape, or form. Dedicated, a lone wolf. United was very cliquey when I was there. You had the youngsters, you had all the foreign guys, the Norwegian or Scandinavian lads who'd all go around in a clique. And Keano wasn't involved in any of that. He was his own man. He wasn't scary at all. a great guy, a really good guy.
Yeah, funny enough, Michael Chopra said this week that Roy Keane helped him a great deal with when he was having a problem with his gambling at Sunderland, I think it was.
I found him as an opposition. You know what I mean? You're not intimidating at all. You know what I mean? I was more intimidated by someone like Neil Ruddock. You know what I mean? It was intimidated by the look. You know what I mean? I just found him very professional. Yeah, just very, very professional. You knew what you were going to get from him. You knew he was going to be guaranteed 8 out of 10. Guaranteed. Even if he was having a bad game, he's having an 8. So you knew if you needed to match him or be better than him, you needed to be at least a 9 to get anywhere near him, and nobody ever did, really.
Yeah, 100%. And go on, John.
No, I was just going to say he was. I suppose he's one of those. He got a temper, obviously. You can see that, and got that passion inside him. You know that you could argue's not there in. He cared. You know, he cared about. You can see what he did with Ireland in the World Cup. The standards weren't good enough. He cared about those standards, passionate about those standards. And I think that's something that's missing in today's game.
Well, that's what he's all about, isn't he? He's all about the standards. You know what I mean? That his standard. He wasn't going to drop it. You know what I mean? If his is here, you know what I mean? He's not going to accept for there. He wants everyone to match him. And for me, that's bang on. Rightly so. You know what I mean? If you've got standards, why should you drop them? Why should you in any shape or form? You know what I mean? For me, it's key that if you expect, then people jump on board with what you want, or they don't do it.
Spot on, mate. And the final question of the Andy Campbell Football Show before Christmas will go to, drum roll, Donna Perry. She says, John, are footballers committed to playing for a club when they're on loan? And it's a phenomenal question.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah. Listen, I played some of my best football out on loan. I loved it. You know, I spent time at Barnsley, at Preston, even at Forest before I signed there on loan as well. I loved being out on loan. And listen, as a professional, you're going out there and performing. It doesn't matter what jersey you're wearing. You know, you are out there to do a job, and you're going to do that job to the best of your ability. Yeah. You know, you're incentivized to do it monetarily. You know, because you're going to get paid and you're going to get paid bonuses. But you know that if you are personally successful and you contribute to the team effort, that, you know, it's in your interest to do well, to win, but not just you perform well, you know, to make the team perform well. So I think it's irrelevant every time you cross that white line, whether you're playing for your home team or your or a loan team, you know, as a professional player, you're 100% committed. 100%.
What a great question, Si. You know what I mean? The happiest times of my life are my loan spells, because it gave me my opportunity to sign for Cardiff on loan, to then progress on to sign for full after having a successful loan spell. Loan spells for Sheffield United as a young 17-year-old boy trying to play professional football, playing in a full stadium on a regular basis. So I understand Donna's question, and my guess from her question is Cardiff City have got a number of loan players. Some of them aren't playing. Some of them look like they don't want to play, which is that's an individual question and individual comments, which obviously we spoke about in the championship show. But you know what I mean? I'm talking about back in the day. For me, a loan move was a positive move. I'm not so sure now a loan move is seen in the same context nowadays than it was back when we played. I think a loan move was always a positive move. It was a positive move to get you fit, get you playing games, get your experience. Where now it's probably the first step of getting you out of that football club to move and away. So sometimes it can be seen as a negative, not a positive.
But I guess it depends on the player and the club and the manager
it's a whole package
and everything.
now.
It's
a whole package
individual
now.
things.
I think before it was different. You know what I mean? I think it was more of an experience or fitness, or you know what I mean. It was always a good thing. I used to love it. It was better than playing reserve team football. John won it. Better than playing Continental League football, where
100%, 100%. Yeah. You'd much rather be playing on loan than in the reserve. But again, why would you go on loan if you're not going to play?
Yeah.
You know, why would the loan club loan you if you're not going to play? The reason you're on loan is to play.
Yeah.
So if you're not playing, then it's a complete waste of time. And talk about demotivating a player. can't play for his home club, or at least it's the club that he's signed for, and can't get a game for the club that he's gone on loan to, that is a total waste.
It's happened for Cardiff City. Cardiff City this year, they've just got a player. Cardiff have got a defender. Got a player from Leicester City. Hasn't played a minute this season, and must be heartbreaking for a player coming from a Premier League club down to the Championship. And it's a mess for me. You know what I mean? John's just said there. If you're dropping down or going up, whatever you're doing, if you're moving on loan from a club, you're going to play. You're not going to sit on your backside. You might have to wait a couple of weeks, but you're nearly at Christmas. We nearly had half a season. You know what I mean? And still no movement. So it must be frustrating. I do get people's point.
Yeah, he must be going.
Very frustrating.
But John, absolute massive thanks for coming on. I know, obviously, you know what I mean. We've jumped on your busy schedule. I've been like a stalker trying to get you on. So I'm massively appreciative. We wish you a Merry Christmas over in the States. You've obviously got a bit of snow, which we're all a little bit jealous of. We just get the rain and the other horrible bits of the cold in the UK. So have a great time from all of us on the show.
Indeed.
And thanks very much for coming on, mate. You've been a gentleman, and your stories, mate, have been first class.
Absolute pleasure, guys.
Phenomenal.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it, and well done. Keep it going. 100
Top man,
shows,
really appreciate
that's
that.
An achievement. Well done, gents. Real big
Cheers,
achievement.
mate. Top man.
Cheers, John. Thank you. And very quickly, guys, have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you for all the questions, the comments, all of that stuff. We are here next Monday, myself and Andy. There's no change to the MMA boxing shows on the Wednesdays. Super Kevin scripted next Tuesday, the 29th. There's obviously no championship show this Friday. And, that's the scheduling changes. Massive thank you to Black Lemon Sports. Huge thank you to Bespoke Financial for sponsoring the show. And of course, I urge you all to check out Bespoke Financial. I really do. But in the meantime, I will leave you with our brand new little closing outro. But John, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers,
Andy, always a pleasure. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
All the best, guys.
Happy Christmas.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if mummy or daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and mummy and daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.